on a bit of a mission. Oh, don't wipe your nose when you got dirty hands, because you know with the dirty nose. On a bit of a mission, I replaced my large Disa valve a little while ago on my BMW E62 engine, and decided this car's done 173 I think thousand kilometers, so over 100,000 miles. And as far as I know, the small Disa, which is tucked in under the intake manifold, is still the original. So yeah, it's a bit of a gamble as to whether it will keep being okay or not, but I've decided to replace it with a new one. I think the large one I used a genuine BMW, because I must have been feeling rich at the time, and this time I've got a VB Bilstein, which are reputable, and you know what they look like, I don't need to show you, but so yeah, the new Disa valve. So to get to it, I followed the George Oster's recipe, and I removed the alternator and all the air intake, so that's sitting down here, and the throttle body, alternator, and that's my air intake, which is going to be a pain in the butt to put back on. And you're going through the gap underneath to, as you can see, my hand's in there. It's enough room to pull that Disa valve out, and the actual bolts are in there somewhere. Yeah, I can see them. So you actually unbolt it from this side. E61 or E60, plenty of room, don't need to take the power steering reservoir out. And this is a big one. Tell me if you know why. I think it's because I've got adaptive power steering, so I don't know, maybe it needs more fluid for more boost, maybe, I have no idea. But they're often like about that high and more of a bowl shape, and that's why it's such a pain installing the air intake, because it comes hard against here. I actually put a bit of tape on there just as a buffer. So yeah, stay tuned, and I think the hardest part's going to be, because down here there's a tensioner, which you need a T60 Torx bit and a breaker bar, which you rotate clockwise to take the tension off the serpentine belt. And I think the hard part's actually going to be getting that back on, because it's really tight underneath this this pipe here. So yeah, stand by and I'll see whether it's a complete failure or a success. And it'll be interesting to see the difference with the small Disa as far as, I don't know, engine power or performance goes, because I noticed when I replaced this one that it opens around about 3,500 revs, and I really feel it when it opens up and lets that air go into the areas it needs to. So stay tuned. And I've taken the large Disa off, because somewhere in there is the screws for the small Disa. I can see one. Hopefully I can see where the others are, because if I can't see them, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I was about to pack up for the afternoon and finish it off tomorrow, but I don't know if you can see, but I've loosened the 4 Torx screws, and I thought, because imagine if you dropped something and it went in there. So I'm just going to put that there, because I'd rather lose a bolt or something down into the nether down there, and to drop it into the intake. That would suck. So I'm going to pull those 4 screws out, and then I should be able to get the Disa out, disconnect it, and see where I go from there. But I was going to knock off and have a cold beverage Just look at the day. It's autumn in New Zealand, and summer absolutely sucked. It rained the entire time and flooded and caused devastation. Now autumn's here, thank goodness. There's your 4 screws. Be a good idea to scrub that. Your 4 screws, that's the bottom one, quite long, 2 top ones. And now I've just got to try and wiggle the Disa valve out and then disconnect it. Okay, it's loose. Just got to watch that, I think that's the PCV valve, something like that there. And I do not want to break that, so I'm going to put the camera down. But it's loose, just a matter of wiggling it out of there. It was a little bit hard to get it out of break the suction, so to speak, so I just put a little bit of masking tape on my screwdriver and just gently prised it, just to help. And there we have it, and it actually looks perfectly fine. I remember when I took the big one off, it was at like, not at this position. It was sort of partway, 2/3 the way around, sort of, it's like it was stuck, and that's probably why I noticed such a difference with the way it was functioning once I put the new one in. So yeah, I've got that out. The hardest part is getting it over that pipe. I think that's part of the, is it the CCV valve, I think. I'm a little bit worried that I might break something there, and I wasn't too sure whether I needed to disconnect that, or was okay to disconnect that or not, so I've left it, and hopefully I can get the new one in place. Quite oily really, but I guess that's normal because the new one, fairly new one, when I say new, I probably put it on about 40,000 kilometres ago. I do a few Ks, so it's just a matter of disconnecting the electrical connector and installing the new one. Alright, so I've got that on. It's kind of interesting doing, you probably can't see in here because it's a bit dark, but you can see this one when you're doing it, but there's 2 up here that you're doing kind of blind, but yeah, it's not too hard. So that one's in, and I'm going to leave it till tomorrow now when I have to put everything back together, which is always a fun part. Like I was saying before, I think the tricky part's going to be putting tension on the tensioner and getting the serpentine belt back on. But I'll watch a couple of videos tonight and see how others do it. Watch the space. Alright, it's early the next day. Actually, it's not that early. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, and I don't have any work booked in today, so I planned it so I could finish this morning without rushing it yesterday afternoon. Large Disa is sitting in place. I just have to tighten up the torque screws, which will pull it in, and then reattach this bracket and reattach the electrical connector. Alright, so that's all in place, and the torque screws have pulled it in tight, and just a matter of reconnecting the electrical. That bracket is back on over there, and that's what these looms or whatever they are hook onto once I'm ready for that. I'm probably going to loosen my power steering reservoir because it makes it a lot easier to get the air intake back in place from memory. I actually wish I could relocate this. I don't know. Let me know if you know. I'd be interested to know. It needs a new O-ring on it. I think it's leaking. Pretty easy fix. Anyway, onwards. Alright, next thing is the throttle body. It's got to go back in place. Alright, I've just finger tightened the throttle body bolts first, because they're aluminium and you know how easy that is to cross thread. So I've just done those up loosely, and I won't over torque it. I'll just pinch them up tight. Next I've got to put the alternator on, so, and then I'll move that out of the way, and then the air intake. So that's the alternator on. I just have to reconnect the electrical connectors. As you can see, these are the star shaped, or the E12 I think they are, Torx, but an adapter does the job. So that's a 1/2 inch 10mm adapter. Just make sure it's clicked on there properly. Not like me, I just dropped it down there and fortunately managed to get it back out. And the torque spec is 10 Newton meters plus 180 degrees, which I didn't quite do because these are aluminium, and as you know, like I just said before, aluminium stretches, and I don't want them snapping in there. That would just be a horrendous thing to happen. So I've gone 10 Newton meters plus a little bit. Hopefully that's tight enough. So now electrical connectors, and then I've got to try and get this serpentine belt back on, and hopefully my little key in the locking thing there is going to work. Okay, as expected, there's no way I'm going to be able to get that drive belt back on. Really tight through here, like really tight. That's all but touching on that pipe, which just doesn't seem right actually, but if you know anything about that, let me know. So what I'm going to have to do to get in there, I just can't get, so like no gap to get your hands in there or anything, so I'm going to have to take the coolant fan out, which is a bit of a pain, but it's just going to give me a lot more room to get that drive belt back on. I can't even really see what I'm doing, so yeah, there's always a hiccup. Everything else is pretty much back in place. Obviously not the air intake yet, but we're getting there. I'd rather this wasn't the case, but yeah, what do you do? Just got to persist really. Okay, I've taken this cover off, so that's just the Torx screws, and I've taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Torx screws, T25s out of there, and this should hopefully lift off, unclip, lift off, and I should be able to slide the fan out. I think there's like a little flappy plastic thing that you can move to enable its removal, so I hope it is as easy as it sounds. And I've just released those clips to hold the hose, or release the hose from those clips. So I'm partly videoing this for you, and also so I can watch it back to see where everything goes when I put it all back. Thought this was a good idea, just to tie that up and out of the way, because I don't want it breaking. I might tighten it a bit more, I think. I might take the opportunity to give this a bit of a clean. This car, I've never known a car that smells so bad from bugs getting into things, and that's probably something to do with it, because when that heats up, yum yum. There's a pipe down here that I've just unclipped, and one down here that I've just unclipped from the fan. I've noticed there's a little bit of coolant leaking, which is not good. I don't know where that's coming from. That shouldn't be happening. Hey. Carry on, keep calm, carry on. So that there, pointing in towards the engine, that's the flap thing that I just pushed around. It looks like it's only on that side it does it, and supposedly helps you remove the fan. Just remove the electrical connector, Move that out of the way. Hopefully I should just be able to slide this out now. There's some more clips, hoses clipped on to the base of it, but I'll get to those when I get down to there. Okay, as we know, things are much easier to pull apart than they are to put back together. Here's the flap, which is quite a good idea actually. We'll see how effective it is when it comes to putting this back. So yeah, the reason I've taken this out, obviously, I'm a bit concerned about this coolant leak, but I've bumped something and hopefully not broken something. There's so much plastic. So yeah, now I've got clear access to the drive belt. So once I've got that back on, I can reinstall the fan. Just got to remember I put that pin in there to hold the tension. But first I've got to have a coffee, maybe something to eat. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning. Picked a good day for it. It's not going to be too hot. There's a nice cool southerly breeze. And then hopefully I can finish this baby off. I replaced my Vanos solenoids a little while ago. I had replaced them, and they were supposed to be OEM parts, but they weren't. I got ripped off basically, and I didn't know. I was a bit, I've learnt a lot since I've had this car, just by doing stuff and learning and watching. So there's two new Vanos solenoids in here now, and apparently I got somebody to do my water pump and thermostat for me, and apparently it was just, you could see a bit of oil, old oil caked in there, and it was just absolutely spewing out of these. So yeah, some parts you can get away with, you know, aftermarket maybe. OEM is always best, and if in doubt, genuine BMW. So right down there, sideways, sorry, there's two holes that line up, and I put tension, or taken tension off. Not sure what you call it, taking tension off. It felt like I was putting tension on. So I should just be able to thread the belt back around now, put a bit more tension on again, and pull this this pin out. Alright, what a difference a bit of breakfast can make. The drive belt is back on. So yeah, the idea with the pin was really good. It just meant that I only needed to just use the tensioner a little bit. Here's my diagram. I know you can get it online, but my printer's not working, and I've got sick of my phone switching around to that way all the time. So I drew it, and yeah, the drive belt's back on. I've got to get this fan back in, and the air intake back in, and then hopefully I'll be close to finished. It's about 11 o'clock in the morning, and I was out here at about 8, so that's 3 hours of faffing about today, and probably similar yesterday. So far I'm not convinced that this is the best way on this model to do this small Disa. I'm sort of wondering, although you run into problems no matter what you do, but I'm wondering if it would be easier to remove the intake manifold. I really don't know. We'll see how this fan goes back in, and hopefully I'm not going to snag any plastic clips and break them. That's my worst fear, because when I was wiggling it out before, there was a bit of coolant coming out from somewhere. Not quite sure where. This camera's actually better at picking things up than what my eye is. Anyway, we're not leaking coolant at the moment, so hopefully it stays that way. Wish me luck. Right, that's the fan back in. Just hope I've done it right. Those little clips are. Just got to make sure you reattach the hose to the clips at the bottom of this as you put it in. Those are hooked over there, so it looks like it's sitting in the right position anyway. Okay, that's all that reinstalled. Hopefully right. Somebody just popped over for a look and said, hey, your belt's not sitting on that pulley quite the way it should, because the sun had moved around and suddenly you could see whether it was only just sitting off the edge a little bit, whether it would have pulled on by itself under tension when it was going or flowing off. I have no idea, but I'm pretty certain it's all sitting where it should now. Okay, mostly done. Air intake is in. I just got to tighten these clamps and put the filter back in, plug in the MAF sensor, and hopefully it'll all be go when I reconnect the battery. Battery's been disconnected for a while, so last time I did that my active steering died, and well, it didn't die, I had to reactivate it. So we'll see what happens. Okay, it's all back together and it's going. I had my battery disconnected for quite a long time, so when I do that for some reason I have to sort of reactivate my active steering, which all you have to do is just keep turning your steering wheel hard left and right, and then all of a sudden it comes back on. But the only thing I'm a bit bamboozled by is my iDrive isn't really coming on. I don't know why. Android Auto is, so when I switch on the car, got my BMW thingamy-bob there, comes up, and then a bit hard to see because I've got quite a lot of glare in here. Taking ages to boot up. I did a scan and there's nothing alarming coming up. And my Android Auto's connecting, and usually all you do is you just press and hold menu for 2 seconds and the iDrive comes up, but it's not. So as you can see, my clock's gone blank and I've got a warning. Yeah, it just says time. So yeah, I don't know. I've got a voltmeter here and it's putting out nearly 14 volts. So yeah, I'm going to take it for a drive and see what happens. Well, everything seems to be in perfect working order. Just gave it a little blast, checked everything under the bonnet, under the hood, and everything's still connected. No warning lights or anything like that. It's a bit weird. It's a bit hard to bring my iDrive up on the screen, which you usually do by holding the menu button down for 2 seconds and it switches from Android Auto to the iDrive menu. But I've got a funny feeling because I had the battery disconnected for a while, something weird's gone on. It might have even discharged the battery a little bit, I'm not too sure, so I'm going to keep an eye on it, and I might even put it on the battery charger for a while, just it's not going to hurt. So anyway, yeah, mission accomplished. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts.